DMCA'd for that.
Seen a whole lot of that going on over the last week, and it's a little not surprising, but definitely a little concerning.
Yeah, I don't. It's just record companies wanting money, man. They haven't made money in a while.
Nobody's going to record stores anymore. Nobody's heading down to Motown to pick up the new 8-track.
No, no.
I was thinking
No.
about it the other day, like yesterday. The last album that I bought,
Yeah.
that I full out paid for, was one of two. It was either 12 Foot Ninja's album After Sharuk, and I don't know the name of the second album that they had. It's either that one, or it was Andy Summers from The Police had a split off that he did recently, within the past 20 years. Recently.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it was called like Circa Zero or something like that. And I bought that album. And this goes back to iTunes to give you an idea as to like how long ago it was since I purchased music.
Right.
So you're talking at least a decade.
I picked up. So I collect vinyl, and I picked up Jeff Rosenstock's "We Cool" and his second album called "Worry." And I don't like that's my contribution, but that's like small label stuff.
Yeah, I can't think of the last certainly the last physical CD or medium for music that I picked up. And when it comes to mainstream music, the last album I bought, I might have been Kanye's Graduation, like back in 2007. And other than that, I mean, I still buy music. The last album I bought is Chill Hop's Winter Essentials for 2020, but that's not like, mainstream music. Right. And also, I think they give that album away for free. I just decided to give them money because it's fantastic. Right. So yeah, nah, I ain't out there. I ain't out there buying the latest hit.
Nope. Spotify's good enough for me.
Between Spotify and Sirius XM, that's about where my investment contributes to it.
It's a streaming world, man. It's I mean, who's going to movie theaters? Last time anybody here went to a movie theater or bought a Blu-ray.
I think the other thing that is fallen by the wayside is the fact that a lot of what bands and artists had to do in a studio can be done at home without having the production team, and you still have fantastic quality to it. You know what I mean? So like that aspect of things has changed to where artists are representing themselves, which is why you're seeing so many be like, I don't care if you guys stream my music, I'm the one who owns it. Do it, like share it with people, which is really cool. I want to see more of that happening.
It's funny that you mentioned that because like looking at the background of Aura's place there looks like a studio.
Yeah.
I mean, make all your music right.
The Marshall stack
I got all
back.
of it right behind. Yeah, I mean, I've got a bunch of stuff that. Yeah, I mean that I don't even. This isn't even a quarter of the crap that I own from when I was in my band. So my third bedroom. I mean, I have a whole set of microphones specific to a drum kit somewhere back there. Got like 2 or 3 live mixers. I've got microphones out. There's a whole pile of microphones behind this bookcase. You can on the webcam, you can barely see like a case down here in the corner. That's the start of the stack, and it just goes up. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, a lot of that. Now I couldn't get anywhere near as good quality as some of these people can, but I mean, yeah, I can't fault record companies for doing what they're doing. I think that it's an opportunity for live streaming platforms and those industries to come to an agreement, especially when you are owned by Amazon. But that's a conversation for a whole nother time.
A mega corporation. Anyways,
it's not like it's one of, if not the biggest, most profitable company.
No, not at all.
With their own music library.
With their own music library, and still, you can get your entire channel shut down, your livelihood shut down because you played more than 30 seconds of a Mariah Carey
it's less than
song.
that. I got DMCA'd on Twitter for a 15-second clip from Outkast. It was an Outkast was playing in the background.
Which song?
Roses.
Okay.
It was either Roses or The Way You Move. It was one of those two.
They had to give a clap for that.
So
it's wild, man. It's wild. And as somebody whose content creation started on YouTube a long time ago, saw it coming here to Twitch. It was only a matter of time before those music companies, just like they did with YouTube, when they found out, wait,
We can.
we can make money off of people's stuff on YouTube. It was only a matter of time.
Yep.
It's going to be the same thing there on Twitch, where they're just going to be yoinking you right off the platform or taking all the money that you make. And it's definitely a bummer, and it's one I'm not happy to see make waves on the Twitch platform itself. Hopefully something's done, because a lot of people have been hit by that, including Aura. It makes me happy. See, this is why, for y'all who tune into my streams, this is why I play nothing but chill hop. Nothing but chill hop. It is license free. They allow anybody to use their stuff, and it vibes, baby.
Yeah.
It vibes.
It ain't bad.
Ugh,
It ain't
it's ridiculous.
bad. So
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 265 of the Planet Destiny podcast, where a bunch of boomers get online and complain about the music that we play on stream. Ugh. Used to be better days. Halcyon days, boys. Halcyon days. This is the last show of the year.
yeah.
It is the last show. And maybe I shouldn't have tied it to that, because thank God this year is done. So thank God this is the last show of this year. And hopefully the next show you guys see, the next time you see us all come together, we're going to be in better times. But how's it going, everybody? We've got our usuals here. We got everybody here. Aura, how you doing, buddy?
The band is back together. I'm
Mhm.
good. I'm good.
Dude, it's great to see you, man. Great to
Thank
see you.
Thank you.
Dan, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I can't complain too much. It's
Oh, that'll change.
It's been nice. No, I like as the year has like now as we're now winding down the year, I'm like, you know what? 2020 was bad in a lot of ways, but every
Yeah.
Sunday that I've been here, I've had fun with you guys. So, I'm thankful for that. Happy to be here.
Dig that. I think that's a good way to look at it. Yeah, I do look forward to the Sundays when I get to come together for about an hour or so and usually just talk about some kind of nonsense. Whether it was the Meatstiny cold open from a month or so back to talking about butts and all that kind of stuff. It's great. This is always a highlight of my week. So Dan Finity, Mr. Aura, thank you guys so much for being here tonight. It's great to close out the year with y'all.
Same.
And of course, my name is the Black Link. Let's go ahead and dive on in to the things that are going on this week in Destiny. 'Cause there's a lot. There's kind of a lot. We got the Dawning. That's happening this week. That's certainly a thing that's going, an event that's going on in the game. It's funny because we had Trials go live this week, so that was a big thing. Some people hate it. A lot of people hate it. Some people like it. But almost bigger news than anything that was actually happening in-game were some of these articles that dropped about things that are going to be coming to the game eventually. We talked a bit about this last week with an article from Joe Blackburn, who last week dropped a huge article talking about the way that rewards are going to be changing in the game. We learned about some returning Vanguard legends like the Swarm, the Shadow Price, and the Palindrome. And can I just say, now that Aura is here, there's so many things I want to talk to you about, because there's a fusion rifle I got to get your opinion on, but the Shadow Price is coming back. You have been using a garbage version of the Shadow Price called Galrin's Right Hand. So
Yeah.
I'm very happy. I hope it's coming back as an adept weapon for Grandmaster Nightfalls in like a season or so. I hope it replaces your Galrins as a weapon that's actually worth using.
Well, Galran's got sunset, and I don't play a lot of quick play anymore, so I don't get to enjoy making Guardians cry that they got killed by a terrible, terrible gun as much as I had in the past. So I'm excited about that. But the one that really got me was Palindrome. That was my gun. That was the one which recoil I could control, unlike the Aes Luna, however you pronounce it. The Palindrome was my hand cannon in D1, so I'm really excited about getting that back in my hands, especially since I feel like my hand cannon play has gotten better. I'm looking forward to being a better shot with a good weapon.
Yeah, mentioning the recoil direction there, specifically with Palindrome, that was my thing with it too, because I loved Aes Luna, but it had a weird recoil direction. It was like to the side and up and all that kind of stuff, where Palindrome was much more vertical, snapped back into place a lot better than most Aes Luna rolls did. So I'm super psyched about it too. Although you mentioned you're working on your hand cannon game. It's getting a lot better. We had a hand cannon drop last week and we didn't get a chance to talk to you about it. Have you gotten your hands on Hawkmoon, and what do you think of it?
I haven't. I have
Really?
So this is what this season has done to me. I still have not played Crucible since the first week of the season, power grinding for the raid. I have not played Crucible at all. I'm like not even kidding you. Nothing.
So does
I
that
have-
make you the happiest PvP player in all of Destiny right
I
now?
think I'm having the most fun in PvP out of everybody, considering the fact that I'm not playing it. Nothing's changed. I'm raiding only. That is it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's the only thing I care about in
you got
Destiny right
flawless
now.
yesterday with Lulu, right?
I saw that.
I got my flawless run in. Yep.
Hell yeah.
That was that took maybe 6 runs total, and I was the reason behind 3 of them.
Okay.
Well, one of them I got farmed.
Okay.
Copley farmed me and gave me the wrong call out for a deposit on a bomb. So I deposited and I died right away. One of them was a hunter jump. I jumped 3 inches, hit the ground, and died. And then, so yeah, but
Yeah.
that's it. I've just been running Deep Stone Crypt. I've been jumping in anytime I can, helping people out, doing challenge this week. And so the Hawk Moon, I've been watching clips. I've never been a fan of weapons that increase damage. So having the power to one-shot anybody at any time, I have no interest in that. It's just another domino in the dominoes of me not wanting to play Crucible is Hawk Moon. Now you obviously you have to have some skill with it in order to get to that point, but still, I don't like one-shot guns.
I feel that. But I will say, Hawk Moon doesn't really require PvP, and it's actually surprisingly good in PvE. We talked a bit about it last week with its special ability. It's technically capable of one-shotting. You're not gonna get, you're not gonna consistently get that off unless like you have the hands of the Mark of J.
Yeah.
And just blow through people with nothing but precision shots. But as a hand cannon, I maintain that it is probably the single most solid normal hand cannon in the game. Like it's just divorced from its exotic ability. It is the best feeling hand cannon. It has got fantastic range. The aim assist stat is laughably high for a weapon as powerful as Hawk Moon. Its stability is great, and its recoil direction isn't anything like the IS Luna or kind of Hawk Moon recoil direction in D1. It is perfectly vertical, so it snaps right up, right back down into place. So it's probably one of the better feeling hand cannons in the game. So it might be worth picking up eventually, just based on that. But can't say I blame you on staying out of the Crucible. Deep Stone Crypt is great. I'll play that any day of the week, and it's been a more enjoyable activity than my time in the Crucible as of late. So I feel that. I definitely feel that.
Yeah. I've just been having a lot of fun in that raid. Just like today, we just goofed the hell off in that like third encounter, just not even taking it seriously all that much, and just be like, just grab whatever's nearby and run that roll. Who cares if there's a specific thing that you like to do? Just run this thing, and it was a lot of fun. I had a blast with it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun every time I go through it. I'm going through and getting the triumphs and whatnot done for it now. So like an entire fire team with that solar, entire arc, stasis, and all that kind of stuff. And it's just a good time.
Yeah.
It is a solid time, and once you've got a good team together that understands all the roles and all of that, it's surprisingly quick to get through. It's we're talking like sub 30-minute runs.
Yeah.
For most of the time that my group goes through it. I enjoy it. It's a really fun activity, and I'm very happy with how that raid has turned out.
How you guys have done the challenge this week? The Red Rover?
Yep.
I haven't done Red Rover.
Okay. Or how did you feel about the Red Rover challenge?
A lot of people are talking about how they don't like a challenge that extends an encounter, but this, and I think Bungie's idea behind it is like you're kind of forcing multiple roles across multiple people, and therefore forcing people to learn. I know so many people like tiptoe around the idea of even being an operator. It's like you're just going downstairs and shooting at a panel. Like this isn't something that's like we need to be really scared about. You know what I mean? This isn't running sword at Crota levels of importance. Like it's really easy as long as you don't overthink everything and overcomplicate it. So I didn't mind it. I understand wanting things that might be more challenging, but trying to coordinate everything, and then remember the coordination as you're going through 3 damage phases for the fuses tends to be a lot to handle sometimes. And if you're not communicating clearly, if there's not a blatant understanding of how to free the person who's locked down below, and passing the buffs around, it can go south pretty quick. Even with
Mhm.
experienced raiders, it can get convoluted. So I'm fine with it. I'm looking at some of the challenges in the future. I think they're going to be a bit more. I think they're gonna be harder per se, like
Mhm.
than just busy. But I think that's how I would describe it. I think I would call it busy, but I've done it 3 or 4 times now.
Mhm.
So again, it's not ultimately difficult. It's just a matter of staying on top and juggling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
I,
I
s- I
haven't
saw
tried it yet.
I saw people like wanting specifically things that were more difficult per se, but
Mhm.
like that, what else can you really do in that room?
In that first
You know what I
encounter,
mean? Yeah.
other than one phase it, which kind of after contest has become the way to do it, right?
Grab a
We
shotgun,
we one
set up.
phased it during contest mode because we had no idea how to do it, everything once it reset.
Yeah.
So we just brute forced it. So yeah, I mean, I was used to one phasing it to begin with.
Mhm.
So I don't know what other challenge you could really offer in that, or like would it keep all the overlords alive or something like what?
Yeah. Yeah. Or like no sploders down. Like you have to keep
Yeah,
kiting them around the room.
you can't let them self destruct. That'd be
Yeah.
nuts.
Boy.
Oh, that would be actually pretty fun, probably.
Well, it's getting the raid's getting to a point now where we're starting to kind of like make up our own challenges as we
Mhm.
go. Like you saw Glad do a final stand only. You're seeing people 2-man, 3-man.
Mhm.
So we're starting to get creative in our own. Today, during Polar's run, we got the boss to final stand, but he didn't go into final stand.
Mm.
So we had to redo the bomb runs and everything like that. And so we do all it again. We get to DPS mode for the second run, and literally, I think the damage I did from my anarchy hitting him, not the anarchy damage, but the impact damage, threw him into final stand. But his shrapnel tornado and electrical field never despawned.
Oh god.
Oh
So we did
no.
final stand with all of that still happening in the room. And it was
As well
like,
as the
this was
purple
really
rain?
fun. Like it was actually really neat. Like it was, people were getting knocked all over the place. Like it wasn't hard to do the final amount of damage with the team we had, but like people were getting knocked all over the room because that steel, like it doesn't just kill you. It'll throw you places
Yeah.
if you get hit by
Smacks
it.
you
So like,
away.
yeah, it was pretty fun to see that happen. So that was, just another challenge. Just got to find a way to glitch that and do the entire boss encounter with that shrapnel tornado there the entire
Forced
time.
it to happen. Yeah. That sounds terrifying. I have no idea how you guys managed to do Final Stand.
I don't think
with
we even
him
noticed until we
floating
like killed him and it
around.
was still there. Like somebody died, we didn't know how they died, but then like we look after it's done, like that thing's still rotating. Like what's happening? So yeah.
That's
Dig
wonderful.
that. I love the way they put these challenges in, and I haven't done Red Rover yet. It looks like it's a lot to a lot to juggle, but I'm sure I'll get to it whenever I do. Because like I said, I've been running the raid consistently with my group of friends, and we're still enjoying it, top to bottom. Can't wait to see what the challenges are for some of the other encounters there. It'll be a lot of fun.
Heck yeah. Um
All right,
so
Donnie.
yeah, the dawning's been going on this week. Anybody played any of it?
I delivered a cookie. Or
I
two.
want to. I want to partake in it
Yeah.
because it's fun. It's actually kind of neat. But I don't know if something changed this year. I feel like I'm not getting any drops for the ingredients from killing enemies at all. Like I feel like
Yeah.
they're super rare anymore. And 15 dawning of essence of dawning or dawning of essence or whatever to make a cookie.
Yeah.
15.
That's a lost sector.
A legend lost
It's a
sector.
public event, regardless of the difficulty.
Yep.
So normal or heroic is 5, and completing a raid is 1.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense. Does not make any sense whatsoever. It's one of those. It's like EXP. It doesn't make any sense that you barely get any EXP or anything like that, or reputation for completing raids and whatnot.
Yeah.
So Essence of Dawning is tied to activity completions. So it's for any activity that you complete. So if you do like a public event, that counts as an activity. A game of Crucible, that counts as an activity. Gambit, that's an activity. Legend Lost Sector, that's an activity. And it's supposed to give you a higher amount of essence based on the difficulty of the activity that you're doing. But then when you get to stuff like raids, it's nothing. It's basically nothing, where you should be getting, I would say 30 or more for doing a raid.
Yeah.
you can just run 2 games of Crucible and get more than that, or 2 Legend Lost Sectors. With some of these Lost Sectors, you can complete in like 3 to 5 minutes. Like when Perdition comes up as the 1250, that's a 3 to 5 minute Lost Sector that you're getting 15 to 17 Essence of Dawning for completing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one of those weird things where you're not incentivized to go and play actually harder content. Just go do a public event or something, bro. It's
I just
I
feel
don't
like
understand it.
I don't understand why they exist at all. I just don't understand the point of Dawning of Essence even being a thing, especially if the drop rates for the ingredients are going to be relatively
Rare.
low. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I got more in a lost sector than I did in an open world. Like, if I wait for the enemy to move against each other, I just go farm ads. I'll get like
Yeah.
1. If I do a lost sector, I'll walk out with 5. So I don't understand where the waiting is, but it's like, why are there these barriers for an event that's supposed to be like on top of content, not actual content kind of thing? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I was pretty turned off by it.
I feel like I get the ingredients by just playing, but I don't. I said this last week. I don't personally have like any investment in the Dawning or any real want or need to get anything from it. I know the submachine gun's been pretty nutty because they, I think it was bugged that it drops with Dragonfly. Is that correct?
It does.
But yeah, I just like I'm kind of in a weird place with Destiny right now where I'm trying to get the gumption up outside of helping people do stuff to really
Yeah.
play. So I don't know.
And I feel that because reward-wise, what is there for the Dawning? There is that new Glacia class of fusion rifle. It's a pretty fusion rifle. It's basically like an Erentil.
Mm-hmm.
So that's okay. And then, like, I think they brought back some of the previous Dawning weapons, like the submachine gun and the LMG and whatnot. But there's not.
I think there's like a shader. There might be a sparrow. There's some
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
ghost projection.
There's that exotic
sort of
ship that
thing.
you for the quest that you level up and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But is that really worth?
Is that incentive like
jumping back on?
is that incentivizing you to do anything other than to customize a ship? And at that point,
Yeah.
what are you doing?
I'm not really motivated to do, and I don't know if this is necessarily Bungie's fault, but I'm not really motivated to do anything in
Yeah.
the game at all. Like I want to like the new content. I want to like the hunts and whatnot, but I have to go to a area and do a patrol and then kill this many Vex using this kind of weapon to unlock the story mission to go back and play again. And then I got to do it on this version if I want to get this. Like it feels like it's a lot for no reason. And I'm just having a hard time being like, I can sit on the couch and watch hot rod shows, or I can beat my head against a wall in this lost sector for 5 triumph score.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
there's just, unless I got a DM being like, yeah, you want to raid? Like, yeah, then I'm in. But until that, like, I just,
yeah.
nope.
I feel the exact same way.
Yeah. And it could just be because, we've played this game a lot. We've played this game a lot. And we've played Skill Up recently put out a tweet that was like, so if they got rid of the power grind, if they got rid of that initial power grind at the beginning of each season, who would miss it? And like you see so many people going, I wouldn't, honestly, if you were like max power level going in and doing this stuff, because really it is an artificial hill to climb just to climb the hill. And I don't know if it's like just because we climbed that hill for the past 4 years.
But so this is why. So I was going to tweet this, and I hate having to even say it, but Stasis has killed my desire to play Crucible.
Right.
And Crucible is my desire to play Destiny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Stasis has killed my desire to play the game. And it sucks because I know how hard people have worked on it. I think a lot of people are having fun with it, and I'm not trying to take away from that fun. But for me personally, I have no interest in anything that Stasis has had to offer. And I find myself questioning what Stasis even brought to the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go back and you look at Titanhammer and you look at Stormcaller, and Tether and what they brought to the game, I just feel like I'm not seeing that value from Stasis.
And that's an interesting transition, I think.
Yeah.
Because this week, Polygon, Ryan Gilliam at Polygon had several articles breaking up different things where he talked to Luke Smith and he also talked to Joe Blackburn
Yeah.
about different facets of the game. And one of the things that they talked about were the older subclasses and how they could get an upgrade eventually. I'm going to go ahead and post the link in our chat for those who are here. And Luke Smith kind of got into a little bit of hot water because he talked about he talked about how some supers are more like basically more iconic than another, more emblematic of a class and a distinction in play than others. Like what was the big one here? He said something about it was the Warlock class. He goes, it's much easier for me to look at Nova Bomb and say Nova Bomb is like IP defining. It's an IP defining super. Get rid of Nova Warp. But in this case, Smith is talking about a classic Warlock ability, Nova Bomb, and comparing it to a mediocre PvP only Super Nova Warp that is used by Nim plays almost exclusively. Cutting Nova Warp might hurt some
It's in the
fans.
article.
Yeah.
Weird that he would mention.
Yeah, I know, it's so weird. But it's generally pretty safe. More people like Nova Bomb than Nova Warp. So, like, that does beg the question. Like, so if you're talking about taking these classes and these abilities and kind of giving them the treatment of Stasis, where you add attributes and all the accoutrement of, like, specializing that class, where does that leave those supers? Right? And how does that contribute to making PvP fun for you, Aura? And how does it contribute to having classes and viability in different builds?
Taking freezing off of an ability that you can have like a 20-second cooldown on.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
I mean, if you maxed out on discipline mods, like how fast and strength mods, like how quickly can you get these abilities that literally render you useless in play? And so like that, I have no interest in that. It's not fun for me. It's not fun for me to be on either side of that. It's not fun for me to freeze people. It's not fun for me to be frozen. Like I'm not adding something to the game. And so like if you were going to take any supers away or any subclasses, for me personally, I would take Stasis out before I took away anything that had been existing before that.
Mm-hmm.
Nova Warp included, and I don't even have that class upgraded. I've never even unlocked it yet.
Really?
I've never used Nova Warp ever, and I still wouldn't take it out of the game over Stasis.
Mm-hmm.
Stasis.
I see what he's saying. There are like when I think of hunters, when I think of the solar subclass, I don't think of Blade Barrage.
That's because they nerfed it. There was a point in time where Blade Barrage
It was
was
good.
nuts,
Right, but
Yeah.
like
with Shards of Galanor.
in your mind, do you see that over Golden Gun? Like just because
When
like,
Cade used it during the cutscene of trying to survive, like you've made that
yeah,
I don't know if it's like fully defining, but you've made that part of the storyline. Like, so getting rid of I could understand where people are coming from with Nova Warp because it's been nerfed to the ground.
mm-hmm.
Shards of Galanor is still useful, and it was still useful in Gambit Overtime. Might even still, if it still exists. I don't know. I haven't played Gambit. And the middle tree for Stormcaller is nuts. Still nuts. It's still good. It's great.
Yeah.
And it's very underrated in terms of ability cooldown.
Yeah.
These still have utility. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Was Chaos Reach, I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
Chaos Reach. Yep.
To me, that's an IP defining animation. Like, hello, that's you're literally shooting a beam of lightning out of your hand. Like, yeah, that's
It's Dragon Ball Z.
It's Dragon Ball
it's
Z.
never going to be as IP defining as Nova Bomb because it was like the first super.
It was the
Right.
first thing. Yeah.
And what was it? We had 2 different kinds, or was it 3 different kinds? I forget. There was Shatter.
It was 3 different kinds. You had Shatter, which shot 3. You had Lance, which shot faster, and then Vortex, which was the
Right.
AoE one and did
Right.
like a dot.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. See, I'm not like I said, I can see where he's coming from, where he's just like some of these things are more iconic than others, and some in a lot of cases they get used more than others because of
Yeah.
that iconic like feel to them, because of
But
how
it's
they
not.
feel.
I don't
But
know
that's
if
not the
it's
end all be
iconic
all.
feel. I don't know if it's iconic fail. I think it's utility.
Yeah.
Like nobody uses no warp in PvE because why would you?
Why would you?
Well, I mean,
It's
Why,
awful.
like if I'm doing, and this is why I questioned what Stasis brought to the table, because when everybody did Worlds first,
Mhm.
there was still using Well of Radiance, Weapons of Light
Mhm.
everywhere. I didn't see a single team using a Stasis anything to do anything regarding trying to beat the raid.
Yep.
So if it's the pinnacle of your entire franchise, which is your raid, the very top, the most intense content you give the majority of your player base being a raid, and Stasis isn't involved in it. Not only is Stasis not involved in it, but there's only like 3 that are. That's the current meta. That's not the end all be all. That's what you've given. I mean, Well is still too strong. Weapons of Light, when you take away any way to do more damage, it becomes almost a necessity in terms of dealing damage and staying alive.
Mhm.
And in contest mode, those are the 2 biggest, hurdles you're going to face. So I feel like I'm just the only person who doesn't think Stasis added anything to the franchise.
I would say it added something to the franchise, but I understand what Luke is talking about here, and I look at it as being a problem of their own making, so to speak. When it comes to stuff like Blade Barrage and Nova Warp, which is explicitly mentioned in this article. Yeah, people aren't using Nova Warp. People don't generally pick it over Cataclysm for damage in PvE, or the Devour build, because the Devour build, bottom tree, is just so good for Void Warlocks. People stopped using Nova Warp primarily because of some of the big nerfs it got in PvP after its initial release. It was always a PvP-focused super. But I think the super's utility in PvE was never really explored because it was never kind of given the option to be good in PvE. It never dealt enough damage. I mean, sometimes you had to do 2 charges to kill like a Red Bar Knight with Nova Warp in PvE. That was pretty much unacceptable. I think rather than entertaining the idea of potentially removing these supers from the game, I think maybe you just undo some of the damage you did with them. When it comes to comparing them to Stasis, like I said, it's kind of a problem of Bungie's own making. They created Stasis. They added in the new aspect and fragment system and all that kind of stuff. They gave it abilities that are specifically really powerful, especially in PvP content where they can just kind of shut down every other light class in the game. I don't know how they move forward from that. I have no idea what they do now to upgrade some of those older light classes to make them compete with what Stasis does now. Because in some cases, Stasis entirely makes certain subclasses irrelevant. Like the Titan Void subclass that's just centered around suppressing things. Well, you can do that with a Stasis grenade build that recharges itself in 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Or you can just hop over on Hunter and constantly glacial grenade shatter dive people. Why bother running on any of the Night Stalker classes? I don't know how Bungie is going to handle this, but I definitely don't think removing older supers from the game is the right choice. If Luke believes, and I think, given the furor over those comments this last week, I think hopefully that message is probably being made clear. It's not that stuff like Nova Warp can't work. It's that, in particular, certain abilities on it were tuned down and taken away, and it was never really given the chance to shine in PvE. And now that we're in this new sandbox where there's a super that can kind of invalidate it. I mean, shoot, even the Warlock Shadebinder super does what Nova Warp did, except better.
I mean, it's almost like, they identified the fact that that grenade, I forget the name of it, on the Void grenade. I hated it. And there was a gauntlet you could make or you could wear that could make it even stronger. What the hell's the name of that grenade?
Fuck.
Oh my gosh! It gave you, it gave you an
You charge it and you throw it.
Yeah.
Handheld
it
Supernova.
gave you an overshield when you were doing that. And
handheld Supernova. Okay.
That was that's the name of the grenade. I can't remember what the exotic was, but it made you harder to kill. Basically, made you almost impossible to kill while you were holding that thing.
Yeah. But the reason why everybody hated it was because it's cheesy, and now you've created a class that is just cheese in general. So it's like, just put it back the way it was. Screw it. Just hit edit undo on all the changes you made to it. Make handheld supernova stupid again. You know what I mean? Might as well make the
Yeah.
super back to what it was, where you could kill people
Bring
through
it
walls
back.
and just like
Yeah.
whatever. Just let everything run. There's no point to trying to balance anything at all at this point. You've
Yeah.
taken that completely out of the fray. You've just
Yep.
thrown it all out the window. So if we're gonna throw it all out the window, throw it all out the window. Make the Arc Titan super that was like insanely hard to kill, lasted 10 years. Just turn that button off too.
Yeah.
Make Shards
it
of
back.
Galanor so
Why not?
strong that it kills everything all over the planet when you cast it. Like
Mhm.
just if Stasis is going to exist the way that it is, undo everything else you've ever done to turn supers down, because there's no point.
Yeah. And tuning.
There's no point.
So in this, if they were to try to try to take the light model or the light supers and put them into what they've done with the darkness subclasses, where like making a customizable version of it, that
I hope that happens.
well, I hope it happens. I hope that Nova Warp, at least the mobility behind Nova Warp for warlocks when in that super, I hope that remains. It feels super weird that they would add so middle trees, the addition of middle trees are very weird to me now.
Yeah.
Now that we have the dark supers, right? Particularly because they feel like a half step. They feel like a way for you to try to customize on a certain like element style without giving you choice, really.
Right. Yeah.
So if they were to try to take the light subclasses and then break them all apart so that you could put them back together again, how do you do that with this system? Other than outside of going back to Destiny 1 and just being like, here's these tiers right here, and you can only pick one out of this like 4, right?
It's the same thing with Stasis though, isn't it? You have a drop down with your whatever that you slot. Like
It's Destiny 1.
Yeah. You have to take it all the way back.
That's what I've been. A lot of people have been arguing about that since D1 first or D2 first dropped. I mean, why did we move away from this customization system when it comes to classes and subclasses that allowed us to pick and choose? Because with D1 you could pick and choose the type of super, like again Shatter or Nova Bomb or Vortex or Lance. You could pick how your grenade worked, you could pick how your jump worked, you could pick the secondary abilities on it, like whether or not you had Devour or Bloom or stuff like that for Void classes. I think we're slowly sort of moving back to that with the stasis classes we have now and the aspects and the fragments. And I like that system. And I would love to see something like that come for the older light subclasses. But it is just kind of taking it back to where things were in D1, which we can say for a lot of different things in the game right now.
Mm-hmm.
I almost like, why I think that's the way. But the thing that really gets me thinking is this is going to start a domino effect that's going to make tons of exotic armor irrelevant.
Yeah.
I just feel like there's going to be no need for half the armor that we have, none of which we use anyway. But like, if we're going to do that and break things down bit by bit, is there going to be a necessity for a helmet that gives you blink,
Right,
or increases the length at which you blink? Is there going to be a need for something that gives you 2 grenades? Because isn't there a subclass that gives you? There's a Arc Titan subclass that gives you 2 grenades, and Armamentariums lets you carry 2 grenades. So that's irrelevant right out of like. So like, I just think this is going to start, and that might be something that Bungie's thinking about. Like, we're going to knock one domino over, and it's going to affect like 15 other things that are going to come crumbling down around us. But I don't know. I don't think there's a problem with. I mean, other than Nova Warp, I still think the other 2 middle trees are
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know what they're gonna do with this kind of stuff, but I definitely don't think removing supers from the game, removing entire classes of play, is the play,
Right.
as it were, to move forward. So here's hoping that isn't the path that they take. I think that would probably create more problems than it would solve.
100%. 100%. We also saw some talk about modernizing the Vault of Glass.
Yeah,
Speaking of
that
going
was
back to year
really
one.
exciting.
Champions and wyverns.
Yeah.
It's coming. You know that you're not going to be able to escape it. Although that article was really interesting because I think that was Joe Blackburn talking a bit about the experience of Vault of Glass, and he mentioned something like some of the Bungie devs went back and played it on PS4 to kind of get a feel for what the experience was and kind of plot out how exactly they would be implementing it in D2. And they said some really interesting stuff there. They mentioned that they want this to be the familiar Vault of Glass experience that you remember. It's gonna be a little bit different, but point for point, it's gonna be very much the same experience you had back then, so that you can jump in. You'll have a good idea of what to do and where to go, and there will probably be some derivative changes from there. I'd imagine it's gonna be a lot like the Disgrace strike, which is the Omnigul strike here in D2, where it's very much the same strike from start to finish with like champions and whatnot thrown in. And then the final fight is different with like the ad spawns and the arena and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. That made me pretty happy to hear. I think we were all expecting big changes to come to Vault of Glass. I'm glad they're not changing the core experience of it, because ultimately, when they tease Vault of Glass coming back, it's a very specific experience that I think a lot of veteran Guardians are looking for. And if they changed that too much, it'd be kind of a Trials of the Nine scenario where it's like, oh, okay, this is the game mode that's supposed to be a reference to a beloved game mode, but you brought it back in kind of a trash form. So I'm glad that that's not going to be the case.
Well, and it kind of goes back to when we were talking to Vixen a few weeks back about like this raid and what they would do to possibly change it, and if it would feel familiar or not, right? Like
right.
The sentence that I'm looking at here, or the fragment when he's like, every encounter will start with people who present the original Destiny strategy for the fight. Whether the original strategies hold up is another question, as players will doubtlessly find far more efficient ways to clear bosses with the host of new tools at their disposal.
Yeah. And I think that sounds great. It's cool. And of course, you know, they talk in that article about how they had to make some changes because the state of power is different in D2 than it was in D1. We have a lot more cheesy options. I mean, just to give a quick example, Warmind cells exist. And could you imagine doing, say, the Templar when the goblins, so when the headless goblins start popping up, the fanatics or whatever, the Mountain Dew goblins, when they start popping up, Warmind cells would trivialize that.
Yeah.
It would completely trivialize it. You just blow up one cell, all those Mountain Dews are gone. So they talk about having to make some changes to make the encounters, to bring them up to par challenge-wise with the new level of power that we've got here. That makes me happy.
You just make them all barrier champions. It makes it real easy.
No.
I mean, we've got Lament and you've got Gorgons to kill. So it's like, I mean, yeah. We would all break off to the 6 Gorgons and everybody would kill their own. You know what I mean?
Just solo. Yeah. So yeah, really happy about that. I am very much looking forward to Vault of Glass. We know that it's supposed to be coming sometime this next year, you know, in 2021. I think it's speculated that it'll probably be like the spring big surprise release. So we'll have to see. They also talk about weapons in that article, don't they?
They talk a bit about the iconic weapons coming back. So they said just like I don't know. I don't think you can bring back Vault of Glass if it doesn't feel like Vault of Glass. You and call it Vault of Glass. You can't bring Vault of Glass back without the weapons that feel like Vault of Glass, right?
Right.
And so I would expect those favorites to return. Blackburn continues. There's obviously some Destiny 2 updating to go into those loot pools, but no one is out to create a found verdict or Fatebringer here that feels radically different from the original Fatebringer, because then it just feels like you're lying to the players. Like, that's not what the Fatebringer feels like.
That statement makes me so happy.
What's the fire rate of the Fatebringer?
It was a 140, I do believe. 140 or 150, I think. No, because Thorn was in the 150 category or whatever that was back in D1, so it might have been 140.
But it wasn't a 110.
No, it was not it wasn't a slow rate of fire hand cannon.
I'm looking here.
They can bring back the weapons as much as they want, but if they don't do something to the weapon classes themselves, it's not going to matter.
Yeah.
Fatebringer cannot be Fatebringer in the current sandbox. It can't be.
Yeah.
It's not. You're not going to one-shot red bars to create the Firefly explosion that made it such an incredible weapon.
Yep.
So that in and of itself, if I have to take one additional shot out of that gun, it's not going to be Fatebringer from D1.
Right.
Vision of Confluence, if I was going to pick a gun I think is going to perform as good as it did in D1, it'd be Vision of Confluence.
Mm-hmm.
If there's one I think is going to perform better, it'd be Atheon's Epilogue. Because the way
Atheon's
the current
is going to be good.
insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if there's one I think is going to be terrible, I think Fatebringer is going to be bad.
Yeah. No, I mean you're absolutely right, and this has been like a thing you've been championing for a long time, or when it comes to particularly the performance of some of these weapons in PvE. You're right. One of the beautiful things about really hand cannons as a whole, especially in year one of D1, was they felt powerful in PvE. You were one-shotting red bars if you were, landing that precision hit, and Fatebringer was known for getting those big explosions. Just one-shotting entire rooms of ads with a nice arc Firefly. And if it doesn't come back, well, if it comes back as just a normal elemental 140, you're going to be plinking away at a dreg for like 3 shots before it dies. And you're right, that doesn't feel good.
I have no interest in that.
Yeah. And I think that's fair. I think that's I think that's more than a fair complaint for the quality of weapons that we get here and how they perform in PvE. Really, I think that we're kind of due for a big PvE sandbox update anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think scout rifles still need to do more damage in PvE. I think hand cannons on the whole still need to do a bit more damage, need a bit more ammo. I think swords still need more ammo. Get mad. I don't care. Swords need more ammo. And until we get that kind of big sandbox update, I don't know. I don't know exactly how these returning weapons outside of PvP are really going to be that impactful. And that's kind of the point of the article here. That particular paragraph he's talking about, what's the point of bringing back stuff like Fatebringer and Found Verdict if it doesn't have the same feel and impact as it did in D1? Well, Aura's right. It kind of can't have the same feel and impact as it did in D1 because some of these archetypes of weapons suck in PvE.
Yeah.
So that's something that definitely needs to be addressed. There are a lot of good weapons in Vault of Glass, and I'm assuming that the full slate of Vault of Glass weapons are coming back. So stuff like Hezen Vengeance, Found Verdict, Atheon's Epilogue, all of that is going to be returning to the game in some way. And if Hezen Vengeance, which was a fantastic rocket in D1, comes back in D2 and performs like the average rocket in D2, that's going to suck. That's going to suck bad, because rockets, on the whole, suck bad in D2.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about it was the only rocket launcher that could hold 3.
Yeah.
The only one in the game that existed at that point that could hold 3 rockets in the chamber, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
The LMG had 99 rounds. I forget the name of it, but it had 99 rounds
Corrective
in the
measure.
magazine.
Yes. And I
The
think
only one that had that.
Right.
That had that much in the magazine. Praetor's Revenge was one of the only snipers that gave you a low zoom.
About that. Yeah.
So like these weapons came into the game at a time where there was nothing else that did what they did. And so that bar has never gone down. At least for veteran players, that bar remains the same. And so if you're going to do this, if you're going to bring this back, it's going to be an amazing experience to see what Vault of Glass looks like in these next gen or current gen, whatever you want to call it, consoles at 60 frames and whatever your resolution is. It's going to be insane on PC at a higher frame rate. It's going to be gorgeous, but you've got to live up to the loot pool. It's one of the greatest, if not the greatest loot pool that has ever existed in the game. And if you miss that mark, like if you think people are mad about getting Nova Warp taken out of the game, you ain't seen nothing yet, you know?
Yeah.
You also then have to answer the question that was raised by 2 other articles this past week. where when do certain like will they have perks on them that will make their way into the loot pool, and on top of that, will they have a cap to keep like where those weapons will eventually be useless in power activity in in-game
Right.
activities. So like you're setting yourself up for several different things to be upset about it like
Yeah.
down the line.
And that's a huge problem. That's that's a gigantic problem. I mean, I want to say that they prove that they still can make interesting raid loot with the Deep Stone Crypt. I
Mhm.
love all the weapons that have dropped from that. The LMG is fantastic. The Scout Rifle is fantastic. The hand cannon is great. So I do hope that the Vault of Glass gear drops with perks that are exclusive to it that you can only get on those raid weapons. I do hope that is a thing when VOG comes into the game. And as for sunsetting them, I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. I still don't know how they're going to handle that for when Witch Queen comes out. When Witch Queen drops, is all the stuff that dropped with Beyond Light gonna hit a power cap and not be able to be brought forward?
If
I would hope not.
if Shadowkeep is to be believed, then yes.
Then yeah,
Unless they
I
unless they do the thing that they did with Season of Arrivals and basically say, okay, all that raid gear from previous like from the garden and from Last Wish, those are now arrivals weapons and can be upgraded through the next year. Unless they do that with, I would guess they would have to do that based on the precedent with garden and Deepstone Crypt weapons. Then those would come through, and probably like Vault of Glass might need that as well, unless it has some sort of overlap. It's such a weird thing, and
a
like
weird system.
yeah, and what external memory says in chat, it's like raid weapons need to be forever uncapped.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah,
So like if you talk about weapons from Last Wish being forever uncapped, like big deal, yay.
yeah.
They're awful.
Mm-hmm.
So like great,
Smart, yeah.
yeah, you know what I mean. So cool.
Yeah.
When you get into Deepstone Crypt, now you've got some pretty innovative perks that kind of resemble sort of maybe what we've seen in perks in the past on exotic guns, but like
Yeah.
these have utility. These are really good. These can exist in sandboxes for a very long time. We're not talking about like outlaw kill clip. We're talking about reconstruction, recombination. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like really useful stuff. So to mitigate that, Bungie has to continue to find ways to make legendary weapons from the general loot pool viable
Yep.
via other perks. And the only way to do that is to sunset stuff, which makes people upset that you've sunset my, what was the Iron Banner grenade launcher? Swarm of the Raven. You've sunset my Swarm of the Raven that had spike grenades on it and auto-loading holster, but you've put it back in the loot pool, and now I have to grind that perk again. So like
Mhm.
they need to avoid putting the weapons that they've sunset back in the loot pool. Like if you're going to sunset it, it needs to be sunset, and that is it. Like
Replace it.
Right.
Yeah.
completely replace. Swarm of the Raven's no longer a viable gun. That's it. It's done. It's not going to come back the next season and be
So you can regrind the exact same thing.
right.
Yeah.
Like it's
Right.
done. Put it to bed. You
Well,
know what I mean?
But that's also kind of what they talk about in that one article where do the DSC raids, do their perks then trickle into the rest of the like loot pool after a certain amount of time? Maybe you get rid of those DSC raid weapons. God forbid, I don't want that to happen, but maybe
Yeah.
those like recombination, like those perks start finding their way in to then make different combinations and to make different versions of those weapons down the line.
Sorry,
Sorry.
chat. We're all looking at Layla.
Layla's in the
It's been a
background
while.
doing typical Layla stuff. Sorry.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Adorable. She just woke up in the best way possible.
Anyway, I I would like if you sunset the weapons after a year of Deepstone Crypt being out and you wanted to put reconstruction recombination in the loot pool, the general loot pool, I think that's a fair trade. If you want to do it 2 years after it's launched, like they have with they might with Last Wish, still fine with that. They need to maintain their uniqueness and still be have utility, but Bungie, I mean, at some point you're just going to run out of ways to make perks. You're just going to run out of perk ideas. Like the well is going to run dry. There's only so many different ways that you can create something that does something in this game.
Right. Well, with the team that they have now, we know that they'll be adding more folks into that loot, into the loot game side of it, where it's just like they're going to be making different weapons with different perk pools. So maybe like there's some stuff that people haven't really messed around with before that we see come to light, but I understand it's kind of like chess. There's only so many moves. There's only so many combinations of moves in order to get to the desired outcome. But you throw something weird into the machine and it'll reconfigure all of the outcomes again.
It's an odd scenario to find themselves in because in a game like this where creating new loot is the primary focus. It is a looter shooter. It's what people are playing the game for, to get the shiny new thing on a regularly released content schedule. And to continually introduce new things. They talked about a bit about this, in Joe Blackburn's article last week. To continually produce new things, sometimes they have to make space for that stuff. So maybe I see some people in chat saying maybe some of the new perks that they're introducing make their way into a greater perk pool. I think raid weapons and raid specific perks should probably stay exclusive to those raids. But they've got to find some way, especially if they're going to continue on with this whole sunsetting thing, which I don't see any indication that they're not.
No.
They're not going to continue on with that. I do believe raid gear should stay uncapped. Anytime you're running the raid, it should be relevant. At least in terms of being able to upgrade that stuff.
Even if it just changes that little icon in the corner.
Yeah. Just update the seasonal icon.
Yeah.
There you go.
Guys, we're going to get paid by Bungie.
The problem is,
problem solved.
The biggest issue is like you sunset Ganora's axe to make me get a first in, last out.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like that's, I think, the issue that people have now. Instead of my Ganora's axe having opening shot, rapid, or moving target, now I've got a first in, last out with opening shot, moving target, or whatever the perk is. And that's where the annoyance comes in. It's like I've already put in the effort to acquire a weapon that does what I want it to do. Now you're making me get rid of that weapon and grind out one that's going to be the exact same thing, just look a little bit different, but do the exact same thing. And that's where I think like if I didn't have to regrind stuff that already did what I need, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. And so like if the overall loot pool, the general loot pool is going to be retired, seasonal weapons are eventually going to be retired, then I think TBL's right. Like end game activity weapons and like true end game should maybe stick around.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to hurt anybody. And who knows? I mean, the thing about the Vault of Glass weapons is that they had perks that were specific to being in the Vault of Glass.
Yep.
Oracle stuff didn't do anything outside of that. So I don't know. I said this like many months ago. It's like I don't envy the job that the people who make perks and weapons have. Like it seems like it's a really tough gig to do.
Yeah, it's a tough situation to balance, especially, like I said, with the content release schedule that they've got going on right now. And the drive to get new stuff. There is always going to be that drive to get the new shiny thing in games like this. So it's got to be tough to juggle and balance for the teams that come up with all this stuff.
And on top of that, so we had our first Adept weapons enter the game.
Yes.
This past week. And from what I've seen, I have not experienced anything firsthand. From what I've seen, players are a little underwhelmed, or should I say just whelmed by like the choices on it. Like, I think one of the big things that I don't think that it has its own dedicated Adept like mod slot, which
I find that really weird.
So you're pulling Icarus off to put Adept perk on, which is what a lot of people are not happy about.
Yeah. I guess we can go through this real quick, but when they described these Adept weapons back during the summer, I don't think they mentioned that did they mention that the Adept slot was going to be taking the place of basically a normal
I don't know.
I
normal
thought
mod?
they described it as being on top of, but I also
That's
have a
what I
horrible
thought.
memory.
I mean, as I recall, like I don't think they really specified, but I took it as being implied that these Adept weapons are going to have an Adept mod slot in addition to the normal mods that are or perks that are going to be available on these weapons. So it is a little bit weird that you kind of have to choose between something like Aura said, Icarus, and one of the new Adept mods. I think that's probably not great, and it certainly doesn't bode well for the Grandmaster Adept weapons.
Unless they see this change and they're like and they make a sea change real quick.
I
That
hope
could
so.
always happen.
Which they've been responsive and they've made changes to things quickly. They've been way more on top of change, especially when it came to the Warlock Super, I think it was, that got addressed
Yeah.
rapidly. So like they've been on top of making changes that I believe that they can make quickly. So like if this becomes a really big deal, and I think people have a point, then I could see Bungie reacting quickly to it and fixing it and adding that extra spot, because really what makes it special at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm never gonna play Trials, so I don't care.
Yeah, I think that hopefully they can make that sort of change, because that is a big benefit of having the whole Adept weapons there. You know, you get your normal weapon, it's got the perk that you want on it, like Icarus or Targeting Adjuster or something like that. And then you have the Adept mod that gives it bonus stability or bonus range or something like that. That's the entire point of of going for the Adept, getting it over the normal version of the weapon. So here's hoping they can make that sort of change, because that alone makes, like I said, that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited about the Adept Grandmaster stuff. Like, I can get a decent auto rifle or a really good palindrome by running Grandmaster Nightfalls, which I have never done. I have never done a single Grandmaster Nightfall because they weren't worth doing. And then I can get this hand cannon that's probably going to have decent stats if, like, some of the current weapons are any indication, that I can also throw a stat boost on top of. Sign me up. I'm down for it. So here's hoping that's that's a message that makes its way through over the winter break.
Mm-hmm. So,
But yeah, no firsthand knowledge there, because I'm not playing Trials.
yeah, and
Not yet.
maybe you'll catch me doing a Trials run before we reconvene next year, but I don't know. with all that
Not
I'm
likely.
seeing out of, like, hey, this is what happens when you're playing against Stasis
Yeah,
and you're gonna get frozen instead of slowed and out of a super.
I've seen a lot of nonsense.
Yeah.
A lot of nonsense in the last day and a half.
Yeah. So I don't like. Maybe I'll try to line some things up so that we have some first hand knowledge coming into the new year. But really, that's pretty much the news for a week. We didn't have the TWAB.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were on break until I think what, first or second week of January.
Yeah. Sounds about right. So
It's good. They deserve it. They've done a lot of work.
I'm going to forego the audience questions tonight, and I want to ask you guys one question. Or I'm going to ask you two questions. What was your favorite moment from the past year in Destiny? And what do you hope to see in 2021 when with Destiny continuing? Anybody can start first.
I mean, mine is easy. It's my world's first team for Garden of Salvation was one of the best gaming. That was 2020, right?
Yeah, well, that's 2019.
Yeah.
But I mean, we could fold
Was
it
it?
in.
Damn.
Been the year.
Okay, well then shit, I don't even know. It was 2020. I have no idea. I guess I'd go with my world's first team with Deepstone Crypt then, because that was this year.
Yeah, that was
was
definitely
this
this year.
That
Yeah.
definitely happened about a month
I mean,
ago.
so those are my 1 and 2 moments. But Garden of Salvation would have been number 1, and then the team that we had for Deepstone would have been number 2, right behind it. So that would have been mine.
Heck yeah.
And I don't even. I want Destiny to not feel like work in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
I want
Yeah.
content to be enticing and inviting and worth it. And so some of the things they talked about coming seems like it. Talked about it earlier, Shadow Price, Palindrome, Vault of Glass. So some of these things feel like they're going to be pushing me in that right direction, but I don't want to feel like the game is work. And everything that's going on with it right now just feels like a job.
Chore chart.
Yeah, I think that's more than reasonable. I would say favorite memory from this year for Destiny. A lot of good things have happened this year. Like there's been a lot of really interesting stuff. I think the one of my favorite was the Bastion quest was this year, right?
Mm-hmm.
The entire puzzle to unlock the Bastion quest, just going through the corridors of time. The massive community effort that came together to make that thing work. The number of permutations of different pathways that people had to go through to get that thing done. When Bungie puts in these community puzzles, it's always a really fascinating spectacle, and that was probably one of my favorite things in a long time. Plus, I got this really busted gun out of it that people still get mad about to this day. Bastion. Listen, I warned y'all with Lord of Wolves when that dropped. I warned you with Bastion when that dropped. Are you listening now? It is a nonsense gun, and I love it. I thought that was really, really cool. I'd say a runner-up to that is definitely Deepstone Crypt. Going through my first Deepstone Crypt, because I knew about the bosses and all that kind of stuff, but I hadn't watched it from start to finish. So when I got hit with the spacewalk, I was just blown away when I got to that part. That's probably one of my favorite set piece experiences in all of Destiny. It's up there with like getting to Oryx in King's Fall and just watching him kind of climb up. There's a lot of cool stuff about that. And the second question was what I'm looking forward to in 2021?
Yes.
I think I'd be lying if I didn't say Vault of Glass. There's a lot of really interesting stuff that I'm looking forward to. I like Aura. I'm really psyched about the Grandmaster Nightfall stuff. We've got a whole new year of content coming forward as we make our way towards Witch Queen. But I would be straight up lying to your face if I didn't say that the number one thing I am most looking forward to is stepping back into the Vault of Glass, whether it's on Venus or if they move its location somewhere else. Going through that original raid experience once again is going to be really hopefully a sight to behold. And the article that we got from Joe Blackburn and Polygon this week, I think did a lot to kind of get my hype up that it's gonna be the experience that I'm hoping it is. I go back and I play D1 fairly often now. I go back and do like retro raid days and whatnot, and going through Vault of Glass is always just the highlight of it. That and the Abyss section from Crota's Inn, because good lord, can we not get through that without everybody falling apart? So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to the Vault of Glass's return.
Heck yeah. This past year, one of my favorite things, two of my favorite things. So it has to be like getting Blacksmith, and tied into that was the 100 Anarchies. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
That was real fun to do, and like, it was great to see the community, my community, kind of like rise up and be like, yeah, let's get this done, and really kind of push that effort going forward. In the next year, and they're talking about it in a chat a little bit, and it is 100% what I am most looking forward to is crossplay.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Crossplay, how it depends on how they institute it, but I think it'll be hands down one of the biggest quality of life changes, one of the best quality of life changes that Bungie could institute on the game. It'll only make it like it tears down the walls between each of the different ecosystems and makes it just the game, like one living world instead of one living world in 3 different parts. So, or 4 different parts if you count Stadia. Do we still count Stadia?
I mean, I guess.
Okay.
I guess.
But yeah,
you get a participation award.
Yeah, I just no, that's 100% it. I want to play with more people. I've gotten to play with a lot of people this year, strictly because like I did move from like mostly console playing to mostly PC playing in the past year.
Right.
But this is, I think this is the most that I've played with people on all over the different systems. So really looking forward to crossplay, so I can just play with them all without having to pay PlayStation monthly to access the internet that I already pay for monthly.
It's a nice thing.
Yeah, that would be
It's
pretty
nice
great.
to be on PC.
Yep.
And you're right. Crossplay, I think, is going to be a major game changer in 2021. I cannot wait for the announcement that they've got it all worked out. It's all ready to rock and roll. They just got to flip a switch, and everything's going to connect up just fine. Because there's certainly not going to be any problems with that on first release.
Oh,
Not a chance.
that's why I'm hoping that it's just like they start it in August, and by September, all like they have kinks pretty well hammered out.
Worked out.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's going to be good, man. I cannot wait for that. Well,
Yep.
all right. I do believe that brings us to the end of episode 265 of the Planet Destiny podcast, the last podcast of 2020. It has been one wild ride of a year, everybody, and I want to say thank you guys so much for sticking with us for all these years, all these episodes, 265 episodes of the current run of the PD podcast, and you guys have been here all the way, along the way, and it's been a wild year. I hope next year is certainly better, and I hope you guys holiday season, whether it's Hanukkah, Christmas, or whatever you celebrate over the next week or so, I hope you guys all have a wonderful one. And it goes for you guys too. I love y'all. Y'all are good.
Love you too.
Yeah,
Thank
My
you.
co-host. Y'all good people. But again, thank you guys so much for tuning in over this last year of podcasts. May the next year be even better. Of course, before we get on out of here tonight, we are going to let you know where you can find us all across the internet and over the next week or so as we no doubt scramble before the holiday season comes to an end. Starting with the one, the only Mr. Aura.
Twitter.com/evilaura, 3VIL_AURA. That's about it lately. Maybe 2021 will bring some changes. We'll see.
Right on. Looking forward to a return of the Layla cams.
The real content.
The real content. The real stream. What about you, Dan?
Hi, my name is Danfinity. Or you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Danfinity. Where the I's or L's, you can find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Danfinity. My whole thing's falling apart. I don't know about it, but you can find me.
Last one of the year.
Yeah, I
Now we
normally
messed it up.
I normally stream 3 days a week, helping people out on the PvE side of things, and that won't change anytime soon. This year, next year, maybe we'll see something. But I hope everybody is safe and well on their holiday, and yeah.
Right on, right on. And of course, my name is The Black Link. You can find me pretty much anywhere on the internet, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, all at The Black Link. Live streams this week are probably going to be sporadic like they were last week. If you knew my in real life job, you know, it gets a little busy around Christmas. And since this is the Christmas week, it's going to be wild for me. I've been putting in like 11, 12-hour work days. And that's probably not going to change over the course of this week. So if I've got time to stream during the day, I absolutely will. And usually that's a Monday through Friday deal at around 11 a.m. Eastern time. So tune in. We'll see what we got there. I will, of course, also be doing the YouTube videos over at youtube.com/Planet Destiny. Anytime we have any sort of big news dropping, though I think Bungie's on vacation until like the first or second week of January. So we're probably not going to hear anything too crazy outside of maybe a hot fix that I think is coming in a day or so. So we'll find out. But all right, everybody, that is it for episode 265 of the Planet Destiny podcast, your guide to this week in Destiny. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and here's looking forward to a whole new year. Bye, everybody.